Many years ago, I bought this book. I've raised goats for probably 30 years, and I was going to get into cheese making and milking goats, and Miss Farmer John here. Well, I never really did at the time. Circumstances came along, had to bring my mother in. She was, I should say my mother-in-law. Had to take care of her. She got really bad and we had to get rid of all the goats. And I never really got around to making cheese. And I never got around to getting more goats for years after. It's a long story, but I met a pastor. He had goats and he sold me goats, and his wife talked about cheese that she had eaten in other countries and how wonderful it was. So I pulled the book out once again. He taught me how to milk goats. Now, when I say taught me, he showed me, but I struggled. Milking goats was not easy, but I finally got the hang of it. I shed a few tears along the way, but I eventually made it and was able to milk my goats. Now, right now, I don't have any goat milk, so when I don't have goat milk, I make cheese from a gallon of whole milk. Now, it's different. The goat milk I make into cheese, I use it for lasagna and things like that. And this one I use differently. I cut it, slice it, fry it. It's not a good melting cheese, but it's good on beans, it's good on enchiladas, all kinds of stuff. So today I'm going to show you how to do that. I do not make cheeses that require rennet or any of this other stuff. It's simple. Vinegar, and that's it. And so if things got really bad, it'd be the easiest, simplest cheese to make, because vinegar is something hopefully you already have on hand. But if you really want to get into cheese making, I don't get reimbursed for this, but this is a book I would get, okay? So let's get started and let me show you how we make the cheese. Okay, this is a gallon of store-bought milk. It's whole milk. It's not 2% low fat or 1% or skim milk. It's 100% whole milk. And that's what you want to use to make your cheese with, is whole milk. Now, I have a stainless steel pot, you can see in the background, and I'm going to pour this milk into this pot. I don't know that you can see it, but that's what I'm going to do here and get this going. I have to do videos by myself, and it's not easy. And, hold my hands, or I should say that whatever I'm making and trying to move the camera and everything else around. So let me get this poured in here, and then I'm going to show you what we'll do, okay? I got that milk poured in there. Okay, we have our milk in here now, and I'm going to turn this milk onto a medium on my stove. We're going to heat this milk up to about 190 degrees or until it's really bubbly on the sides. But we're going to stir this milk also, okay? So, be prepared to stir, and stir. But, oh, it's so good once it's finished. Now, I have also here a stainless steel spoon that I use. I don't like to use wood on this because wood, I don't know. You're supposed to, keep things kind of really clean and sterile when it comes to milk. And I just don't see wood doing that. Wood is porous, and so, but you just want to stir like that and keep it going. And I'm going to stay at this and keep stirring. And then I'll bring you back when it's at the temperature, getting close to the temperature, to show you how to check and how to finish making this. Now, this is the thermometer I used to check this with, and I just checked it. It was at 140. About midway, I raised the temperature of this to medium-high and not just medium, because if you don't raise it, it'll take you forever and a day. But once you raise it up, you got to stir it constantly. Now, I'll come back again in a few minutes and we're going to check this again and see what the temperature is at. But I use a thermometer like this. You can use a candy thermometer. This one is a little bit hard to read because it's so small. But it was inexpensive and I had gone through so many candy thermometers because I don't know why. It's not that they break, but it's like they get moisture on the inside and you can't read them anymore because it just fogs up. So I got something like this instead. But we'll come back and check on it again in a few minutes. Okay, our milk has reached 190 degrees. What I'm going to do is put a 1/3 cup of vinegar in this. Now, I'll look and see if it needs more, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm going to turn the burner off. I'm going to start to slowly stir this. And you're going to see that it should start to curdle. Yeah, it is. And sometimes you need more. Sometimes you need more vinegar than 1/3. I know that the recipe calls for 1/3. But I've had times when it took more than 1/3 of vinegar. But you can see those curds slowly starting to pull away. Slowly. I may add just a little more to it. Let me get a little more vinegar here. I have a helper, so that's good for me today. You can at least stand there and hold the camera over that pot. But I'm going to get just a smidgen, whatever you want to call it, of vinegar. And does this have a vinegar taste? No, it does not. Now I'm putting less than 1/4 of a cup. Let's see if you can see this. You see where the 1/4 is? I would say probably a tablespoon or 2 only more of vinegar. But you can see how this is curding up. And you want the milky part to be more yellow and not white. And that's going to start to happen now that I put a little bit more vinegar in. You see how it's really starting to curdle now? I know the recipe says, 1/3 cup of milk, but sometimes you get into something and you do it and you just know it's not working just right. And you're like, this isn't curdling as good as it should. But you see how it's starting to do now? You see how this is turning more clear, yellowish, not milky. Now I'm going to let this sit until it cools off. This takes about 30 minutes. But I'm going to let this cool off. You do not want your milk to boil. That's the thing. 190 degrees and that's it. And I'm going to let this sit to cool because it's too hot to handle right now. And so I'm going to let it cool down. And then I'll come back and show you we're going to separate this and make a delicious cheese. Okay, I'm going to start pouring this. It's cooled down a little bit, but not much. And I'm going to have to lift this strainer up in a minute here so that the whey can go out the bottom. You see that? I'm going to stir it around here. You see how you're getting the cheese here? Now I'm going to set this aside because I'm going to get salt at this point. I'm going to put my salt in here and I need to dump this out. So we'll come back right in a minute here. Now I'm going to use a little bit of kosher salt here. And then I don't have to have a lot of salt in mine. I don't. And I'm going to get the rest of this put into this. I'm going to have to stir this around here so the whey will go out the bottom. I'm going to taste just a tiny bit. It needs more salt. And I have the rest of it in the pot. See if I can do this without burning myself. use cheesecloth to do this. You know, you can set it in your sink and let it continue to drain. That's what I'm probably going to do. And then mix up some more salt in it. You see? And it's draining out the bottom. Okay. Okay, as you can see, you see that corner there? That means there's still quite a bit of whey in there. So I'm going to dump this whey over here out. And I'm going to put it in my colander again. And I'm going to let it strain to get more of that whey out of there. Although, you see this? This is a perfect soft cheese for ricotta. It is. To go over beans. I'm going to add a little bit of salt to this. I may decide to leave this way. Some people like a solid round cheese. But this is not a melting cheese. It's not. It doesn't melt good. I use it in enchiladas, beans, all kinds of stuff. Now, a lot of people will drain the whey out for a long time so they get this solid, hard cheese. Let me taste this again and see if I have enough salt. Just a tad bit more. Not much. Just a little bit. And I may very well leave this way because I really like it. Because whey is good for you folks. It really is. It's good for your gut. It's a good probiotic. It's just good. And so having a little whey in your cheese is not a bad thing. And this is a wonderful crumbly cheese that you could put over beans. Like I said, enchiladas, anything soft. You could put it on a cracker. I'm going to taste this one more time. Because I'm looking for the salt. Oops. Perfect. That's a perfect amount of salt. You can taste it as you go along. Perfect. I'm going to leave it like this. I was going to make it into a round kind of brick. But I don't think so. For my personal use, this is perfect. It just is. For my personal use. You may be different. And if you wanted to turn it into a brick of cheese or a round of cheese, you would do it through a cheesecloth. Or if you did it through a strainer, press really hard on that strainer with the back of your spoon like this. And press and press. And it'll take all the whey out. Which will leave you with a solid round of cheese. But I'm going to leave it this way. I like it this way. And this will keep a couple of weeks in your refrigerator. I hope you'll try this. I really do. And thanks for stopping by and watching. And as always, God bless and take care of you. Okay, I know I said goodbye and all of that. But I got to thinking about it and felt I really didn't explain this good enough. Now, in the book, it doesn't tell you that you can just leave your cheese this way. It's because you're supposedly making a fresh cheese. And a fresh cheese is a harder cheese. It's solid and compact. But solid, compact cheeses like this don't melt very well. You have to really get into cheese making to get one that melts. And I'm not really into cheese making that much because you have to order rennet and just a lot of stuff. And I'm just not going to go through all that to just make, cheese that I could actually buy at the store cheaper than I could make it. But this, it serves me extremely well. When I made cheese before, it was goat cheese. And it was a ricotta. And I used that on enchiladas, beans. I made lasagna. I made a dip because normally the dip you use cottage cheese, and I used this kind of cheese instead. And you just mash up a avocado, mix in your cheese, chop up a jalapeno, mix in jalapeno, garlic powder, and salt, and just get the chips and party hardy because man, is that stuff good. But if you want a solid cheese, you're going to have a mold with holes in it that has a press on it so that it pushes the um, whey out, or you're going to have to do it by hand yourself and push and push and push and push to get the whey out, and then put it in a small round container so it holds its shape. Or there's another way you can do it, and this is the way I did it when I did make a solid cheese, because I have made it before. But like I said, I really didn't like it that much. It didn't have a lot of uses that I felt I could use it for. You put cheesecloth over your strainer, and then when you pour your whey and your cheese into it, you gather up your cheese and the whey will come out, and you gather all four corners of your cheesecloth, and then you can tie it around the faucet of your kitchen sink and just let it drain for 2 hours. And when you take it off your faucet, you'll have this wonderfully compact cheese that you can just wrap up in, plastic wrap, or put in a container and put it in your refrigerator. Now that's, the other way that you can do it. But I prefer this because it's just got so many uses that I can use it for. So I felt like I need to come back and explain better why I made the decision to do it this way. Because the book doesn't tell you to do it that way. But hey, I change things all the time.